So, all right. So I guess we're going to try to make this not only the draft, but a running segment where we do a rant at the end about a particular topic. So, all right. So you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
No, I'll go after you.
Okay. So, all right. So, this may be an unpopular take, but I felt this way for a few years now, and I think it's fairly clear. I think Tiger Woods is incredibly boring. And, now listen, on the course, obviously, we're talking about one of the greatest golfers of all time. I'm not disputing that, okay? Anybody in a sport that goes out there and kicks everybody's ass is inherently interesting. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying, well, Tiger, you need to be more interesting. No, Tiger should just be whoever Tiger wants to be. That's fine. What I am saying, though, is could the media stop trying to tell me how fascinating a person he is? Because he really isn't. Okay? First of all, on the course, he's won one major since 2009.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be Skip Bayless here, but other than one weekend at the Masters in 2019, he's been fairly irrelevant in the sport.
Yeah.
So there's that. But he still is relatively interesting on the course. So look, and Tiger Woods has been this way his whole career. He's basically that's how he's been characterized. He's a robot. The guy never makes mistakes. He never never has controversy.
Well,
the thing that exactly. But the only thing that's made him interesting in 25 years is his wife finding out he was cheating on him and going after him with a golf club. Okay? That short period of time, I think it was, probably about a year or so, where it's like, oh, this is going on. But did Tiger ever talk about it?
Yeah, no.
Didn't hear a thing. Not a word. So there's a limit on how interesting that can be. After a certain amount of time, it's like, okay, I really don't care about hearing from all of these women that he apparently slept with. Like, there's a limit to how interesting that is. So the only thing that's interesting about Tiger Woods is when he's at his worst.
Well, I mean,
okay, which is pretty well. Yeah. No, listen, I'm not saying it wasn't interesting. I'm just saying it's like we've got that scandal, and then he gets a DUI.
Yeah,
and he gets in a car accident. Like, these are the most exciting things about a guy who's supposed to be one of the best athletes in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think John Daly is actually more interesting than Tiger. I know he's not anywhere near as good of a golfer, but the guy is a train wreck every week. Like, he's been married several times. The guy is like an episode of, one of these reality shows.
He's on the course. He's drinking Diet Cokes. He's smoking cigarettes. He's eating peanut M&Ms. He's partying after every round. Even his look. He's got the mullet with the big beard and whatever. Like, even his look is more interesting than Tiger. You know what he is? He's Tin Cup. But without the part of the movie where he just focuses on golf and becomes a really good golfer. Like, no, he's Tin Cup. He's just that type of,
So it's like, and then I said this a while back, like Tiger played this golf tournament, where he played with his son and everybody's like, oh, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And that's great. I don't really want to watch it. Like, it's not fantastically entertaining. Yeah. It's cute.
It's
but,
cute.
if Tiger Woods wasn't really good at golf, no one would care anyway. So I'm tired of the media telling me how fascinating this guy is when I don't think he's done an interesting thing in his entire life. Well, other than be a train wreck, So, they have a documentary on HBO about Tiger, right? Tiger does an interview for it. They don't get one interview or quote from Tiger for this entire documentary. Okay? It lays out his whole career, good and bad. Okay? No, doesn't want to be a part of it. Okay? So it's just like, I'm glad, and I'm glad that now, Tiger gets to come out of his shell a little bit. And, he's it seems like he's focused on the right things now. He's focused on his kids and, what he has to do. And I think as a golfer now, I looked it up today. Jack Nicklaus kept playing in the majors until he was 65. I don't think there's any way Tiger's going to be able to do that. Because, first of all, just physically, I don't know how he's going to play 5 more years, let alone 20. So I think at this point, when he left, he finished his round. He didn't make the cut at the British Open, and he finished his round, and he was, crying at the end, and and I was like, wow, what's going on? And he basically said, look, I don't know if if this comes back to St. Andrews, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play. So I think at this point, we can just say it. Tiger Woods is a ceremonial golfer at this point. He's going to play in the majors because that's about all he can physically do, and he's not going to be competitive in them. But he'll be out there and he'll wave to the crowd and everybody will be excited to see him and all that stuff. But that's basically what he is. But as far as being an interesting person or athlete, he doesn't do that much for me. I've always been way more interested in Phil because Phil has a tendency to just say shit and shoot his mouth off and do dumb stuff, and it's just Tiger's too worried about letting anybody else in or anybody seeing anything, and plus, and the good part is he's a golfer. So it's not like, we have this avenue or he has very rare media availabilities. If he wants to not see anybody, he can just disappear and we never see him. So anyway, yeah, I know that's, again, not going to be the most popular take, but off the course, Tiger's pretty lame.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to completely agree with that. So, all right. Here, I'll do my rant. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but it was about college football. I was kind of holding back. I didn't want to give everything away. Got my notes written down here. Let's see. The changes in college football are a microcosm of the changes in the American economy and American culture. It seems like every major change that's made or even contemplated is all about the money, both in college football and our society. Why are Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC? Why are USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten? Follow the money. In 2021, the Longhorns and the Sooners received about $34 million from the Big 12 Conference. When they move to the SEC, they're projected to receive about $60 million per year. In 2020, the Pac-12 distributed about $33.6 million to each member school, while the Big Ten paid an average of $49.2 million to each member school. Why do we have a college football playoff? Why is it eventually going to expand to 8, 10, or 12 teams? I think you know the answer. Now, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with making money. I'm a capitalist. Capitalism's nearly eliminated extreme poverty in the industrialized world, and it's helping third world countries rapidly move out of poverty. Capitalism has also dramatically improved our standards of living. I mean, think about it this way. The people who rip capitalism are often doing so on Twitter, which is an app you can access on a smartphone, which is a remarkable piece of technology that allows anyone to walk around and access all the accumulated knowledge of human history. And smartphones are not cheap. Now, I'm not saying capitalism is perfect, but that's another topic for another day. Now, while there's nothing wrong with making money, there's certainly something wrong with seemingly everything in college football in our society being about money and the pursuit of more of it. It's not only the pursuit of money I have a problem with, it's the constant pursuit of the next best thing and never being satisfied when something is already good enough. Something's been lost. Everything in college football is all about making more money and winning the national championship. What about winning your conference? Winning your rivalry games? Winning a bowl game? Finishing the season ranked in the top 10 of the top 25? Did you enjoy college football in the 90s? Did you enjoy it in the 2000s? Did you enjoy it in the 2010s? Of course you did. BCS or no BCS? College football playoff or no college football playoff? Be honest. You liked all the arguing. That's a big part of what makes college football fun. What's wrong with the Big Ten teams playing a certain way? What's wrong with having a variety of conferences? The Big 12 teams don't really play defense, but their offenses put up a ton of points. Sometimes change actually isn't good, no matter what the talking heads like Colin Cowherd and other people on ESPN or FS1 say. And never forget, both those networks have a vested interest in college football continuing to pursue more and more money. Tradition be damned. What's the next part? Think about some of the changes we've seen in society and what those changes have taken away. Amazon is certainly convenient. In fact, it's extremely convenient. With Amazon, every day seems like Christmas because there's always a package outside your door. But how do you think Amazon ships things so quickly? It's pretty simple. They treat their warehouse workers like dog shit, and they hardly pay any taxes. All this convenience is making it absolutely impossible for small businesses to compete. We all lose when it becomes harder for them to compete because there's less competition. Less competition eventually means fewer options, higher prices, poor customer service, and a whole range of other problems. It also means the rich not only get richer, but obscenely richer. If you think consolidation is okay or just the way it is, remember that it was not always this way. Decisions have been made over multiple decades, both at the administrative level and in our culture, that have created the systems that are now in place, both in college football and in our society. In our society, the Supreme Court and the legislative branch have basically allowed monopolies to pervade nearly every sector of the economy. Our government has been protecting corporate interests for decades while the rest of us watch housing prices and the price of college skyrocket. Even before the massive inflation that we've been seeing in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, everything had already been more expensive. Wage growth has been stagnant for decades. Healthcare costs are completely out of control. In college football, we've allowed ourselves to buy into the narrative pushed by the media that it is all about the national championship. Never mind the fact that they're only saying that because it serves their interests. They need the clicks, they need the ratings. They get ratings and clicks by pissing you off. They don't care about the future of college football. This idea that everything is all about the end of the season is toxic. Think about it in the context of living a happy life. If you make your life about the journey and not the destination, you'll usually be happier. The journey towards something lasts a lot longer than the enjoyment of achieving something. You have to enjoy the journey. But it seems like now we're being told we cannot enjoy the journey. Everything is about the destination. This is a recipe for unhappiness, and with college football, it's a recipe for less enjoyment of a sport we have loved for decades. That's my rant. Went on a little bit long, I apologize.
Wow. Well done, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no, I sounded like Bob Costas.
Listen, you only get that kind of journalistic talent here on the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. Man, Clark, bringing the knowledge. Yeah, so, okay. So do you think, so you don't think it's a good idea to consolidate the conferences and
generally, no. Like I said, it's going that way, and it'll still be good. It'll still be fun, but I do think that, like I said, I think some things get lost, and I think we're kind of going, oh, it'll be okay. We'll just get used to this other thing, and it's like, I guess, but everything has pros and cons, I guess.
And I think, it's kind of interesting. Like the problem with college football when we grew up always was the end of the season. Right? It's a mess. Well, they didn't get the right two teams, or there's not a good way to pick the two teams, or whatever. And now it's like, okay, like I said earlier, like this is better, right, than it was, but we're still not anywhere where, we're not even close to where we need to be. And by the way, no playoff system is perfect. I'm not saying that, there's a perfect way to do it. There isn't. I'm just saying we can do better than this. I totally agree with you. We've basically said, all right, you got to win the national championship or you suck. And that's true in every sport, by the way. That's how it is in even the professional ones. And that's one of the things that bothers me. Like it's not a right to win the national championship every year. Like if you're fortunate enough to do it, great. But we've gotten into all of this trouble because we have just decided, well, that's all that matters. Now, listen, in college football, they don't really care who wins the championship. They just care about they're going to make a bunch of money off of it. So I get what you're saying. They're doing this all for money. And the thing is, what bothers me is that this could be done where you could make a lot of money and the product could be good. I'm not saying everybody would be happy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you could do this in a way that serves all of these interests, and it's like, I get USC going, you know what? We're tired of funding all these other Pac-12 schools, but we're making the money for the whole conference, enough of this. I understand that, cause it's not USC's fault that all the other schools are not at their level.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping
Well, and I'll say this, maybe we'll see how it goes with like the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and what ends up happening. Maybe things will shake out in a way that's kind of cool. maybe there'll be these different conferences, but you'll still maintain some of those rivalries, and it'll be interesting. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think if you took the Big 12 and the Pac-12 or the best schools in those and combined them and you'd have a really good conference. No, it's not going to be the SEC or the Big 10, but so what? Yeah. There's every conference can't be, at that level. So I think there's a way that this can be figured out. What upsets me the most is that they could all sit down and just do this. All these conferences could just sit down and work this out, and they would.
Right.
And so it's really, that's the part that sucks. It's like they have what could be an unbelievable product, and they're just like, it's fine. So it's like they're taking money in the short term instead of thinking down the road and thinking, we could make so much more money if we did this. Yeah. So, all right. Anything else?
That's good.
All right, that's it for today, folks. Listen, try to be more interesting than Tiger Woods out there, okay?
Not that hard.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. Episode 43 in the books.